You know, as a believer, you are often challenged to share the gospel. Wherever you go, you're challenged to share the gospel with everybody that you meet. Any person who is receptive to what you will share, and even those who aren't receptive, you are challenged to share the gospel in whatever way possible. Sometimes the only way possible is just to be an example and to live the life of a believer. So today I want to share an aspect of Christianity with you that is very different or very unique, or something that you will not read about very much. Have you ever heard people say that people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care? People don't really always just want to hear about Jesus and from scripture and what it means, and they don't want to hear about theology. Sometimes they just want to know what God has meant for you, what Jesus has done for you. And that's usually the best way, from what I've learned so far. The best way to share the gospel is really just, what has Jesus done for you? And today I want to just share an aspect of that, and it's a very deep and personal aspect that I want to share with you. And it's not something we talk about very much, it's not something we hear a lot about very much, but it has to do, as you may have noticed from previous messages, it has to do with going through a traumatic experience and healing from that. But people don't really tell you very much what to do with your anger. When something terrible has happened, you've gone through a divorce, you've been attacked, like I've mentioned before, you've been through a rape, you've been through, lost somebody that you love. Any traumatic experience that you may have gone through leaves a lot of scars and a lot of questions and a lot of frustration. And one of the aspects to break through that I really do believe works, but is not spoken about that much, I'm going to share with you today. For all of us, there comes a time when you become angry. And at one point, you become angry enough to start directing your anger towards God. You don't have to admit it out loud, but it's a fact. At one point, you do become angry enough that you start directing that anger at God. You don't know who else to blame. You feel that He could have stopped it. He could have done something to prevent it from happening. If God is so great, why is this terrible thing happening to you? And you get to a point where you become angry. Now, what do you do with that anger? And that's what I want to chat to you today about. I had a friend, after I was attacked, I was going through a bit of a tough time. It was about 6 months later, and I was really struggling to sort of come to terms with it, and I had a lot of crazy emotions going on, everything from anger to fear to frustration to nightmares, all kinds of crazy things going on, and I didn't really know how to move forward from that. I was really a bit stuck, and this lady shared a story with me that at the time didn't make sense at all. It's something that I completely rejected and I didn't think anything further of. But I applied it, and it made a huge difference. It really was a breakthrough moment for me. And that's what I'm going to talk to you today about. When you get to the point where you're so angry, she shared with me that her father had passed away, and it was really, really difficult for her to forgive God for taking him. And it sounds like we're not allowed to say things like that, but we are. We are believers, we are in a relationship with God, so we are allowed to be honest with Him about the things that we think and feel. So she was really frustrated and angry because she felt that He had taken him away too soon. And the one day, she just broke down and she started crying, and she was telling me this, and at one point she just started directing all the things that she was thinking anyway, and telling them to God. He knew it anyway, but she was just telling Him how angry she was that He had taken her dad away, and that she didn't understand it, and she was so frustrated, and she missed her father, and she still needed him so much, and she was just letting it all out there, just putting all her angry, raw emotions out there, and just talking to God and telling Him everything that she thinks and feels, and everything that she thought about Him at the time. And it sounds really ridiculous, but she said that after that she really felt so relieved. It really was a breakthrough for her. When I first heard this, I really rejected it. I didn't think much of it, because there's this fear of the Lord that we have to have in place, and it's not a fear as in I'm terrified of Him. It's a reverent fear of how great He is and how much He cares about us still, even though we should be worthless compared to Him, but we're not, because He cares so much for us. So it's that reverent fear, and sometimes that reverent fear can be misinterpreted by us or misplaced. Can you imagine, or have you ever been in a household or in a home where you may have a fight with a parent, for example, or the parent has done something, or you've done something, and the next morning nobody talks about it, you just carry on, you make coffee for each other, and You know, you talk about the things of the day and all that sort of thing, and nobody ever talks about what happened or the things that are still bothering you. Likewise, have you ever been in a situation where you may be a parent of a child and you and this child have had a fight, and your child just never comes out and tells you, you know what, I'm mad at you? Have you ever been in a situation like that where you've been in a home where you've had this fight, something that you disagree about, you've hurt each other, said things that you didn't mean, and afterwards nobody talks about it, they just carry on? And that's a very, don't you think it's a type of a relationship where you really just put on a mask and continue forward instead of really being real with one another? So what I learned from this was, there was one night that I was thinking about this, and I had nightmares, and I just couldn't break this. I just couldn't get this thing out of my life or get a way to just move forward from it, because I was still trying to live as though it hadn't happened. You know, that phase where you live like it never happened. You just want to move on. You just want to put it behind you and carry on. And I was still in that phase, and this thing just wouldn't let go. I was having all kinds of dreams. I was having all these, everywhere I went, I saw this guy everywhere, and freaking me out, even though nobody was there. And the one night I just had enough. I just couldn't carry on anymore, and I just broke down, and I told God how disappointed I was that he didn't protect me, because I couldn't understand how he could be a loving father and watch his little girl be hurt like that. How do you do that? I couldn't understand it. I was angry. And I was just putting all my feelings out there and crying and telling him everything that I thought and felt and how disappointed I was, because I really thought God would be there for me. And at the time I didn't see how he had actually been there for me. I felt abandoned, I felt alone, I felt desolate. And I put all of those feelings out there. And that's what I want to tell you today, is that God is not just a God that is far away. He's not just a parent that is disinterested. It's a relationship, and in a relationship you've got your great times where you share and laugh and you feel close to one another, and there are other times when you hurt each other, when you do or say things that you don't understand, or there's things you sometimes get in a situation where you hurt one another, and by not talking about it, you're not moving forward from it. You are blocking that intimacy by just building up a wall around your heart and carrying on day to day, and that's not God's desire. You're his child. I'm his child. That wasn't his desire for me. So I want to just share with you that to really get a breakthrough from what has happened to you, and read about it in a lot of books. It's not really spoken about very much in trauma counseling either. It's not even just something that's shared by pastors very much on a platform, but it is definitely a method of healing. You know, we've got this thing of, I'm not allowed to be cheeky with God, and you're not. There's no place for being cheeky. That's not your position. But you are allowed to be honest. Don't fake it with him. He already knows. Don't act like you're okay with him, but you know inside you're not. Just tell him how you feel. There's nothing more frustrating than being in a relationship, a parent-child relationship, where there's no communication, or where there's just moving forward and pretending like nothing happened, or nothing is bothering either party. And that's not God's desire. He's your father, and he wants to be an intimate father in your life. He wants to be a part of your life every single step of the way. He knows you're mad at him. He knows that you don't understand. He knows that you are frustrated. He knows that you're in the midst of the storm that doesn't make any sense to you, and you don't know in your human capacity how to move forward from that. He knows it. Stop hiding. Stop pretending that it didn't happen, or stop pretending that you're okay. Don't be afraid that if you are honest with God about how you feel, that some lightning bolt is going to come from heaven and destroy you. That's not how he is. And if that's your interpretation, then somebody has misrepresented him to you. He is not that type of father. He's a father who cares. He's a father that feels so relieved when his child just comes out and says, you know what, I am so angry with you right now. I thought you would protect me, and you didn't. I still needed my dad. Why did you take him away? I still needed my mom. Why did you take her away so soon? He is not the type of God that you think he is if you are limited in being honest with him. He wants you to be honest. He wants you to just break down and tell him everything. There is nothing in your heart that you can hide from him that he doesn't already know. So why are you holding it back? Why are you not being real with him? Because I promise you that once you've done that, your level of intimacy with God and your realness with him becomes something else. It just goes to a different level. And once you've got God close to you, because where you are right now, you may feel that he is so far away. But when you're honest with him about how you feel, it changes, and it becomes an intimate relationship again on a whole new level that it's never been before. And that's where your breakthrough comes in. That's where you can start seeing forgiveness. That's where you can start seeing maybe I can move forward from this. But that's where you can start smiling again. That's where you can start having joy again, because in the midst of where you are, you've got that intimate, close relationship with your Creator. And that's priceless. You know, maybe in the midst of everything that's happened, for me, definitely, when I was attacked, it was a terrible situation. It was a terrible thing that happened. But the one thing that I took from it was that I grew closer to God, or at least He grew closer to me. Our relationship moved in a different direction after that, because after that, even though I was still in the storm, I was never alone. But you know, it's one thing to be a believer and wear the cross on your neck and sincerely do the best that you can to apply biblical principles, and it's something completely different to have an intimate, honest, close relationship with God. And that starts by being honest about how you feel. Even in the midst of the craziness, even in the midst of the chaos, just be honest about how you feel. I know it sounds insane, it sounds impractical, it sounds like something that wouldn't make any difference at all, but I promise you, where you are right now, that's going to be your breakthrough.